Of course, you guys are bringing the show on the road here to Orchard Park. How much are you looking forward to being here and being around Bill's Mafia?
Well, listen, coming up to Buffalo is always an amazing atmosphere, number one. And Bills Mafia has been one of the great supporters of football teams, one of the great, I think, fan bases there is around the NFL. And, I think this matchup goes back to great history with Josh and Patrick Mahomes and the championship games that have been played. And now Kansas City comes backs up and gets to visit Buffalo and in Buffalo. And so, again, it's a classic matchup. They're not in the same division, but you feel like there's a matchup every year that's just waiting to happen.
So I can spend half of my life traveling back and forth to Kansas City. I'm like, how's this not just a divisional game at this point? Uh, Coach, just having watched you in your coaching career and then in the broadcast career afterwards, you seem like a guy that might put a Bills Mafia fan through a table, if just politely.
Yeah, listen, I love the fan base. I broke a table a couple of years ago on the set and got to know Sean McDermott very well and just everything he stands for, and obviously knowing Andy. So these are two teams that are so similar, I think, in the standpoint of they got two solid coaching staffs. They got two, I think, elite quarterbacks, so well coached. They don't beat themselves, and it's interesting because I think they both have kind of transformed themselves outside of the quarterback into kind of different styles of teams since the last time they've met in those big shootouts they've had in Kansas City. So I love where Buffalo's at. I love what they've done. James Cook, Ray Davis, the running game. Josh has done an amazing job of protecting the football this year. They're taking the ball away. And then you look on the other side of it, and for the Kansas City Chiefs, they come up with different ways to win. They got 9 wins, and 7 of those 9 have come in one-score games. So they're winning on the edges. Some people have said, but good football teams find ways to win, and I think it's going to be a classic shootout.
It really is remarkable. Kansas City finds a way to win every single week. Meanwhile, you mentioned a little bit there. The Bills have kind of changed the way they do things a little bit. It's not as much Josh just taking that 5-step drop and throwing it 80 yards down the field. He's done a good job of kind of taking what the defenses have given him. How have you seen him mature as a quarterback?
Listen, we all know Steph Diggs was a very good player right there, but I think at times there was this onus to try to keep him happy and to try to get his touches. And I just see almost Josh playing with a little more freedom right now. He's not feeling compelled to have to keep people happy. He's going to take what the defense gives him. He's trying to get everybody involved. And I think there's a freedom that goes with that, knowing that there's everyone there. This is your team. I think he's taking ownership over it. I think his leadership has just displayed itself to another level this year. And even from the standpoint of his decision making and the things that he's not trying to do too much at times, and at times when he needs to take over, he's taken over. So I just see a guy who's kind of gone to the next level of leadership, the next level of quality of play. And again, the only thing that's missing from his belt is a championship. But I think he's going to keep knocking on the door. The other thing that both these teams have, which I think is impressive, they got two really good offensive lines. And I think that's the one thing that you look at the top offensive lines in the AFC, and you're going to put Buffalo and Kansas City right up there at the top.
Coach, you mentioned Sean McDermott there a little bit, and how you've kind of gotten to know him a little bit over the years. It took you a while to get that Super Bowl ring. It was at year 15 or 16 as a head coach.
14, yeah.
14. So
Yeah,
14 seasons it took you to get there.
yeah.
Every year it seems that Sean at the beginning of the year ends up being talked about as on the hot seat. Not something that I necessarily believe in, but nationally it becomes a topic. When you see the job that he's done with the Bills, and you hear hot seat, is it something you just kind of shake your head at and go, man, they don't quite know what's going on there?
It's the hot seat, and you can't win the big one, right? So
Yeah.
I had those labels attached to me my entire time as I was in Pittsburgh, and I think when you look at what he's done, he's in the playoffs every year. He's got them competing. How many times winning the AFC East, and we're coming into this year. What was the big talk into this year? Oh, we got the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. We got the Miami Dolphins, and some people picking to be there. And oh yeah, how about the Buffalo Bills who've won this division like 5 straight years? So I think a little bit kind of been going under the radar early in this season, kind of playing a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. And Sean's just very consistent. I think that's the one thing any player that plays, and it reminds me a lot of myself, to be quite honest with you, being a defensive minded guy, that he's always tweaking. He's always trying to go to the next level, but not losing sight of what the core values are or what they represent with the Buffalo Bills. And you got a quarterback that you're going to have make sure he's involved, but you also want to supply him and surround him with a cast of people that he feels comfortable with. So I love what he's doing, constantly tweaking. It doesn't let anybody from the outside. He'll control the noise from the inside. The noise on the outside is a lot louder than it is on the inside. That's a very close team. I look at Deion Dawkins as a kind of a centerpiece of that. Terrell Bernard. You can go down through there. They kind of made some change in the secondary with the safeties. It was hard to see those two safeties leave, but that's part of staying in the same place, is trying to make that transition, from veterans and keep some veterans and then go into a degree of youth and an infusion of youth. So I think he's done a great job with that with the football team. And again, they're playing right now, and it's a great matchup. And it's one that brought CBS NFL Today up there for an hour pregame show into the parking lot. So this will be an interesting afternoon.
You mentioned the label of can't win the big one, and you can't get over the hump, and you ended up with a gold jacket, so and a
Yeah.
ring. So it turned out pretty well for you. Hey, well, a couple more for you, and then I'm going to let you go. But one, because you were connected to any and every head coaching job right after you retired. I know for sure that the Bills was one of those. Wasn't a time when I was covering the team, but I talked to a few of the other reporters, mentioned that I was going to get a chance to talk to you tonight, and they said, "Hey, you got to ask him, how close were you to ever legitimately becoming the Bills head coach?"
I don't think I was ever close to legitimately becoming a head coach anywhere else. I think I got to know Terry and Kim Bagula when I took over the team and talked to them a lot, and still do to this day. So much respect for what they do. As you know, Terry came from a part owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he reached out and we talked. And, I think the biggest thing, Josh, is I've really enjoyed my life on CBS. I've been there through my 18th year. I got an off season now. I've remarried, and very, very happy. And, still to be a part of it. I've always said before, I said, for me, I've been doing this for 18 years. I get to coach every team every Sunday, and I haven't lost a game in 18 years. So I said, I go to sleep every Sunday night, get ready for the next week. And I have an off season when the off season comes around, but I still love the game. Love organizations like the Buffalo Bills, like the Kim and Terry Pagulas, and the Sean McDermotts, and the Josh Allens, and the Terrell Bernards. And what you represent is a very core fiber what the NFL is all about. Just good people with a sense of purpose, representing the regular people out there. And I always remember coming up there, every time we came up there, driving down that street, and they giving us the friendly high with the one finger, which is like, okay,
For one, kind of.
I feel welcome now. Here we are. We're in Buffalo again.
That's great. And this is my last one for you. Your first season as a head coach in the NFL, you get the Steelers to the playoffs only to run into, that buzzsaw that was the Bills and Marv Levy, and they were, just running to the Super Bowl every single year, running through the AFC. What do you remember about that playoff game?
Well, I remember that when we played them, I think we played them the next year, and then Bruce Smith got sick. Thank God, he wasn't sick. I don't think that game, but it was like one of those games that, like, when Jim Kelly, the K gun, everything that was going on with Bruce Smith and Daryl Talley, and I just said, it was like we had home field advantage, and I ended up starting Neil O'Donnell for the first time. He had sat for about 5 weeks instead of Bubby Brister. I was a rookie head coach, and it's my indoctrination into the playoffs. It took me a few years to win a playoff game, and I realized that the playoffs are a different animal. It goes to another level, and people kind of turn it up a notch. And we weren't able to turn it up a notch and meet what the Buffalo Bills and Marv Levy kind of presented to us as they walked into Three River Stadium on that afternoon. But, it was a great lesson. And I think that's the one thing I'll say about Buffalo Bills. If they talk about resiliency and the ability to bounce back, that's what they've represented, what the city represents, with all the things they've done, having to go to Detroit for a snowstorm. And, I just love everything about the very fiber of what Buffalo Bills fans are, and what it allows to live in Buffalo. So very, very honored to come up there on Sunday, and looking for a nice welcoming in the parking lot over there prior to the game.
We can't wait to have you and your crew here in Orchard Park. Looking forward to seeing you, and hope you get a chance to enjoy some wings while you're in town.
Thanks, Josh. Always good talking to you, and see you on Sunday. Hopefully get some warm weather. I guess that'll help too.
And hey, warm is, that's
I know
kind
it's
of
all
it's
relative.
a tricky word here. 45
It's
will
all
be
relative.
warm in mid-November.
That sounds good to me. That's great.